for her.
You're saying that customer support is the most important part of your business. Like, what parts of the business do you think are the most important, like, for you?
Definitely customer service. So we have our core values, and our first core value is to hold the traveler experience above all else. You can have the best product in the world. You can have the best technology, the best interface, everything. But if people don't like working with you, what's the point? And especially as a small business, especially when you're bootstrapped and you don't have a huge marketing budget, you really rely on traveler referrals, on repeat customers, on that interpersonal relationship to help you grow. And that's all you have. And if something goes wrong, especially in travel, there are so many things that are out of your control. You know, there can be a blizzard or bad weather or a hotel, their air conditioning breaks. You know, so many things can go wrong on a trip that are not part of our control. And the one thing that we do have control over is our customer service. And so there's no excuse for that to be bad.
Definitely. And, you know, like once you started with the business, once you acquired first customers, what were your next steps to scale it and acquire more customers?
Yeah, so I don't know that I am the right person to ask that question, because
You are, believe me, you are.
I think that we are a little bit of an anomaly where we couldn't keep up. And so on the day when that first article came out, that first Business Insider article, we got our first 20 orders. And it was just me. And I was just sitting in my co-working space crying because I felt like, oh my God, now I have to do it. Now I have to figure this out. And I was really overwhelmed. And then it never stopped. So we just kept getting orders. And after that, another publication wrote about us. And, you know, I got a call from Shark Tank and NBC News, and all of these other companies just started writing about us. And they don't tell you when they're writing an article about you all the time. So I remember, you know, one day just getting a huge spike in orders and thinking like, why is this happening today? And realizing, oh, Vogue wrote about us. And so, you know, all these things were happening, and it just felt like a race to keep up. I think the hardest thing was to learn when to hire someone. And I was doing this all by myself for a while, and then I hired an intern to help with some research. And then it got to the point where I was still working at a bar. I was working all day. I would be woken up early by, you know, a traveler if they needed something who was calling, work all day, and then go to my other job at night. And I realized I don't have time to send out newsletters. I don't have time to post on social media. Things are going to start falling through the cracks unless I get help quickly. And so hiring that first employee was huge, because it just felt like, okay, we can tackle this now. We can divide the responsibilities. There is somebody holding me accountable. There is somebody who I can ask for ideas. We're in this together. And that was really, really necessary for me. But it didn't solve all the problems. You know, we were still racing to keep up. I was working nonstop. And a couple months later, I got really, really sick. And I ended up in the hospital for about a week. And I had, you know, all these different problems. And I was in the hospital at 2 a.m. working and planning trips. And, you know, and because even though I was sick, didn't mean that the company stopped. And so that was a moment where I realized this is not sustainable. I need more help. And after that, we decided to hire another person to help with planning the trips.
Gotcha. That was actually the next question. Like, how many people do you have? You know, and who was the first person you hired, and how many people do you have? And, you know, if you could, how did the company grow? That would be great to know.
Yeah, the first person I hired was a guy who I knew from growing up, who had just been traveling the world and had just moved back to my hometown of Pittsburgh and was looking for work. So it was perfect timing because I needed somebody, and I thought, perfect, Eric, come help. And so I started to make a list of all of the different things that I did on a day-to-day basis. I planned trips, I answered customer emails, I took phone calls from our travelers, I worked with hotels, I packed traveler envelopes, I worked on the newsletter, I posted on social media, and so on. And then I looked at that list and I thought, okay, which things on this list do I enjoy doing? And which things on this list, give me energy and make me feel, really motivated? And which ones feel like more of a burden? And when I went down that list, I realized, I started this company because I want to plan vacations for people. I love that part of it. I love the customer service aspect of it. I'm not a marketer. And I don't know how to build partnerships with hotels, and I don't know how to, do all of these other things. And so I realized somebody else will like to do those things, and somebody else will be better at those than I am. And so I made those into a job description. And so at first, the division of roles was I plan trips, I am 24/7 on call for our travelers, and you do everything else. And from there, we started to finesse it a little bit more. Once we brought somebody else on to help with planning trips, I said, okay, great. Now when we hire new people, you can train them because now you know how the company works. So it really started to grow and become more specific from there. Prior to COVID, we were 13 people full-time. We are now 10 people full-time.
Nice. That's like 1 million per employee. You said 12 million a year, right? Wow. That's a great return on investment. Even better than Facebook.
I will say travel is misleading. The margins are small. So, we are using most of the budget for our travelers' vacations. So that goes towards their flight and their hotels. But
I wanted to ask you one question. You mentioned that you got initial traction from publications. And how did they learn about your company? How did they hear about you? And what motivated them to write the publications about you?
Yeah, sometimes they saw another article and they decided to write as well. But we actually had a couple of mystery shoppers. So at one point, I remember, sitting at my desk, and when we got an email from a gentleman who was traveling by himself and who went on a trip to Chicago. And when he got back from his trip, he emailed and said, by the way, I'm a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Do you mind if I write about my experience? And we said, wow. No. Did you have a good time? And so we had no idea. And that same thing happened with Cosmopolitan, and she also wrote for Bravo, which is a TV channel here. So we had a couple of mystery shoppers. It also happened with a gentleman who was a reporter for the biggest newspaper in Minneapolis a couple of years ago. So after that, we got many orders from the Minneapolis area. So that's the best type of press to me. People who can write about their experience firsthand, who are not influencers. They are journalists who are trained in this, and they are doing it just for the news piece. We have done a lot of partnerships as well. So we did a partnership with Ford Vehicles, where they were sending reporters in a new model of car, and they wanted to send them on road trips. So we planned surprise road trips for reporters who were driving in a Ford car. And so that was a great cross promotion. So if there's ever any way that we can work with a larger brand to help them get some new content, us get some new content, that is always the best way to go.
Huh, interesting. So I was wondering, so you said that you didn't have anyone doing marketing for the company, right? Your focus was customer support. Mm-hmm. So from what I hear, like you got, so, because you did a good job, you were organically promoted, right? But are you actively, doing something actively, so you don't just like kind of sit and wait until someone promotes you, but you are kind of, you are the change?
Yeah. So now we have 2 full-time marketing team members. And so we are not doing a lot of paid advertising still, because we're bootstrapped and we don't have a huge marketing budget, but we have one person who is focused primarily on strategy and partnerships and, cross promotions and things like that. And then one who is more focused on social media, newsletter, and more, SEO type things. So we have a pretty engaged social media following, which is great. And at this point, 12% of our business is repeat travelers, and an additional 20% are referrals from past travelers. So we worked really hard to create a network and a community for our past travelers. We have a private Facebook group that our Pack Up and Go alums can join. And, we ask questions to keep them engaged. They ask each other questions. People share photos from their trips, recommendations, things like that. So we know that because we don't have a huge marketing budget, we have to be creative and we have to find ways to continue engaging our travelers. And I don't think that customer service ends when the traveler arrives home. It is a continued relationship. And so any way that we can foster that, we're going to.
And I wanted to ask you, do you stimulate your referrals? Do you motivate them somehow to spread the word about the company, or it's just, it happens naturally?
It happens naturally, but we do reward. So we do have a referral program where travelers can refer somebody and get a discount off of their next trip.
Cool. And have you ever tried to implement, I don't know, any sort of viral loop? So people, for example, they sign up, and in case if they spread the word, bring more customers, they will climb into the, let's say, and get more rewards from you. And maybe if they will generate, let's pretend 10 customers for your company, they might get a trip for free or whatever. So do you have any sort of these viral programs?
So we don't have that yet. That's a great idea. Right now, we offer a discount on a future trip, but not a free trip. So maybe down the road, that's something we can afford to do.
So we came up with a great idea for a business. I think it's
there we go. Thank you.
Great.
Get it.
So it's a win-win podcast. Great content for our listeners and some great ideas also for our guests' businesses.
We'll rename it. Andre, we'll rename it, okay? After this one, we'll rename it Win-Win Podcast.
Sure. I wanted also to ask you, do you have any community admins, like a person who is managing this community, taking care about the content, surveying customers, making polls, the person which is truly engaged with this community?
Yeah, that falls on our two marketing team members. They are hyper focused on that community, and so the two of them really engage there. And then the other part of our team is more operations focused and customer experience focused. So we have a team of in-house travel agents who are doing the work to make the trips as great as possible and reading through the traveler surveys and curating the experience.